everybody. Julie Murphy here, financial planner for over 25 years. And guess what? I'm here to help you get to a life that you absolutely love. Why? Because you deserve it. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like, and that notification bell because we're going to get you there. And I just need you to promise to yourself that you're willing to look at your financials in a way that you've never looked at them ever before. Because the question I'm going to ask you today is, where are you financially headed? We're at the beginning of a year here, and even if you're watching this not at the beginning of the year, today is a new day. And you have the rudder to the boat or the steering wheel to the car. And this is what we need to realize. So many of us wind up defaulting to whether it's whatever my employer gives me or whatever the economy performs at or whatever my spouse allows me to spend. Like, we have all these financial constraints. And what it's done is it's put so many of us in a place where we don't feel like we can direct it to go where we want it to go. And what tends to be easy for a lot of people is just to kind of go, oh, well, there you go. And it doesn't get us all at once. It negotiates itself away a little bit over at a time. Like with your employer, you start to say, okay, I can understand things are a little rough right now. And I get that I got the promotion, but I'm not getting paid. Stop. No matter what is going on, there's always a way to find a solution. And with that employer, if you really believe that you are actually deserving of that raise, they will find you the money and not give you an answer that's no. It's about you holding extremely loving and healthy boundaries for yourself and saying, yeah, maybe you work with them at a period of time, but you hold the boundaries and you hold them to what they say. I've had clients who have been in new jobs for 3 years doing the work because somebody was laid off and now they're doing the job of both and they're not getting paid for those promotions. And why does it have to come to a point where people say, I'm going to quit? Because employers, people know how far they can push your boundaries, and you're being called to maybe hold a healthy boundary for yourself so you can get back to a place of your own personal financial empowerment. I was also reminded, like we talk about your money with your employer, but let's talk about money in terms of your relationships. I cannot believe how many women said to me when I got divorced, oh, you were able to do that because you're not the one that runs the money. What? Why should that have anything to do with whether or not you stay in a marriage that's not feeding your heart and soul? And this too is a place where often we give away our power, that we really actually don't want to be married to that person anymore or stay in a relationship anymore, but we stay there because the money. How is that going to actually create more happiness and better health and wellness for you and the people that you live with? It's not. We negotiate it away little by little, week after week, month after month. And it's time for us to actually choose the financial path that we want to be on. And some of that comes from the fact that, if you think about years ago, what did, we'll just say a husband and a wife in their home? A lot of times one would run the cash flows and the other one would run the investments. A lot of times as a financial planner, I would see that the husband ran the investments, but the wife ran the checkbook. But we don't even really have checkbooks these days or check registers because everything's done electronically. And so those duties, now it's more fly by the seat of the pants. And depending, you may be in a household where you had careers before then. And so you may have your own operating checking account, and then your spouse has their own operating checking account, and then maybe there's the household one. That actually keeps you more in a place of empowerment in running your cash flows in a household. But you might be the at-home parent, and that's why you didn't keep your separate checking account. So you just kind of put it all into one. And then over the years, as the kids get older, you start allowing the other person to hold more of the financial empowerment than you. And I get it. We just get busy and things like split apart. But what's interesting to me is that you can't be checked out forever. You can't not, because if you want to actually, you know, get out of that relationship, a lot of people won't because they don't feel they have the information. And then it's getting to a point where it's awkward to ask about the money because then the other person gets vulnerable and it can turn into something that it's not. And so it's super important for us to take a step back and look at your life and say, okay, how can I start to choose more of the financial path that it might be? So if you're that at home parent that wants to know more about what's happening month in and month out, well, maybe you go to mint.com or some other electronic um, budgeting system and you connect your credit card to it so that you can start to analyze some of your spending. So you can, because this is all about choosing your financial path, is all about just increasing your awareness, whether it's increasing your awareness about your cash flows or increasing your awareness about what you want to spend and not spend, increasing like where does this fit for me wanting to stop working someday or my kids' college and whatever that financial goal it is that you have. And it's about just increasing your awareness so that you don't feel like you're spinning out of control. Often, what happens is we're flying by the seat of our pants and the paycheck comes in and then things get spent. And you're like, I wish I would have. And let's not have it be one of those, I wish I would have, because many of us are getting way too tired, overworked, exhausted, and life is getting busier, faster, and then you add all the other stuff we've dealt with over the last few years from pandemic on top of that. It's a lot. And we can't keep doing more to then patch the holes in our financial plan because doing more is no longer an option because we are literally killing ourselves as a society. We have to start to actually increase that awareness and increase that consciousness around not only where our cash flows are going, but the goals for our money. And the goals that you once had, are they even relative to what you have today? Maybe you have to start in terms of financial education. Maybe you start, like, I really don't understand that stuff that I have in my 401k, and maybe I should. And there are no shoulds. I should say, is there a desire for you to want to learn more? Or would you like to continue to be at the current education level that you're at? These are all ways that we step more into our financial empowerment, more into our financial awareness, so that we are actually an active participant. And keep in mind, active participant can be that once a quarter you have a financial date night or a financial appointment with yourself to look at it all. I have one client that we talk to once a month because she wasn't sure whether she's getting divorced or not divorced, and but she knew that she just wanted to take away that vulnerability of the financial side. So she asked if her husband would mind if we actually start to educate on the accounts. And you know what? Kudos to him, because he's like, absolutely, because your fear may not be reality on the other side of the table, because you might be surprised at how much of the hangups around money, as much as we'd like to project it to be on the spouse or the employer or your parents, whoever that is, it's actually some unrest that's going on inside of you. So if you start to recognize the fact that, oh, I am kind of blaming my employer, or maybe I'm blaming the government, or maybe I'm blaming the pandemic, or blaming, whatever. If it's not you, and looking at where is my unrest inside myself, that I'm doing this emotional projection onto the employer, the pandemic, the government, blah, 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 parents, employers, whichever, that's an emotional projection. And when we do emotional projections around our money, we need to understand that there is emotional need that is not being met inside. So the question is what is it? So what I'd like for you to look at today, I really wanted you to dig down and see if you are doing any of that emotional projection, like that there's a reasoning for this, that it's this, it's this, it's this, it's this, or this person, that person, this person, or that person. If you're doing that, I want you to take a step back and go, I am not in a place of being personally financially empowered. So, how can I increase my financial awareness? Because what that projection represents, it represents the fact that you don't feel like you have a safe container financially. You could be super successful and make a couple hundred grand a year, but that container still doesn't feel safe to you. It could be the fact that it's coming out like there's unrest in your relationship, and so you guys are overspending, and it's creating credit card debt, or spending on more homes and newer cars. And I always see when people go to do a huge remodel on their house, I always ask them, I go, so what else is going on? What are you trying to distract yourself from? Because more often than not, what I find is that there is some other thing going on in their relationship, and the doing the remodeling of your home or upgrading and buying a bigger home or a more fancy car is just some other emotional unrest about something else that's going on inside, whether it's the relationship or the family or employment, that has nothing actually to do with desiring that new house or remodeled house or bigger, better car. So, this is how we start to step into choosing our financial path, because it's coming from a place that's our heart's desire. That you want to be in a place of empowerment, that you want to have financial awareness. Doesn't mean that you have to fully understand 100% of everything, but it's just about the fact that, does it resonate with you what's going on, or does it not resonate with you? And you'll notice that I talk a lot about, in your mind, you might be able to justify it away. In your mind, you might be able to say, oh, yeah, and this is a good reason, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, that answer came from your head. Can I actually get an answer from your heart? And people will look at me like, what? What do you mean, my heart? I want you to drop into your heart, because your body actually will tell you the right answer. When you ask yourself the question, is there some emotional projection here? Or am I not living my life financially the way that I had always thought of or dreamed of? If your body contracts or you get anxiety when you ask yourself that question, then it's not true for you. But if you feel grounded and good and solid, well, then you're okay with that question. And that is true for you. Our bodies are way smarter than our minds. But we distract ourselves there too, in terms of the foods we eat and the lack of exercise, particularly with the pandemic, with things being open and not open and all this other stuff. So choose your financial path. Choose how you want it to go. It does not matter one iota what you've created up to this point. You just have to accept that you've created the reality that you have, and then allow yourself to expand into a new reality. But you have to decide, what is that path that you truly want to create in your financial world? Because I guarantee you it's going to ripple into all the other parts of your life. And don't forget, please subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that notification bell, and like button, because I'm here to help you to get you to a life that you love. Thanks, everybody. Bye.